the desert of the real.
I'm your host, Jason Dietz. Welcome to the Desert of the Real, a movie podcast where I force my co-host, Ryan Hudson, to watch the movies that he has refused to watch because this doesn't work for me.
It doesn't. No, I'm fine with your movies. I just haven't seen them yet.
Okay, whatever. We're two high school English, film, philosophy, and creativity teachers with graduate degrees using our academic training to dig deeply into movies. We explore the creativity and philosophy in our films and push our listeners to think critically about their entertainment.
Nice. I'm Ryan Hudson, and usually we force Jason to watch Marvel movies. But today we're watching
a good one
to like make sure he doesn't go insane. It's for his insanity, which is perfect because this movie's all about going insane. Or is it? It's actually just about like an evil mirror that does evil things. I guess they don't go insane. They just think they're going insane.
Or they don't.
Or they don't.
Yeah.
What movie did you have us watch today?
Which is the point.
Yeah. You're already excited. You have a lot of ideas to share.
I love this movie.
You ready for the summary?
I don't know.
Okay, this movie is directed by Mike Flanagan, who you might not know him by name, but there's a good chance you know his shows because he has become successful. He's had 3 back-to-back shows on Netflix that have all been critically acclaimed. I don't know. I haven't seen them. I'm not good at his filmography because he just recently did
So what shows are we talking about?
The Fall of the House of Usher.
That was pretty good.
Midnight Mass.
Never seen it.
The Haunting of Bly Manor.
That was amazing.
And The Haunting of Hill House.
Yes, those two are amazing. If you love horror and you haven't seen those 2 hauntings, the last 2, highly, highly recommend them.
He directed Dr. Sleep, which I hear good things. The sequel to Shining.
Yes, I know it's a sequel.
Oh my goodness. A spiritual successor to The Shining?
No.
That's what I meant to say.
The Shining is one of my very favorite movies of all times. Why would I watch a sequel?
But this is not his first movie somehow. Because usually, directors come out of film school and they, if they're lucky, meet people in film school to make a short film. And then if they're lucky, that short film gets recognition. And if they're lucky, then sometimes they can turn into a feature-length film. Or the director goes to make music videos. Or they go to make other, commercials, that type of thing. And then can kind of build up a resume. He somehow started off with a movie, Make Believe, from the year 2000. Don't know anything about it. Don't know how it came to be, because maybe he has connections. Or sometimes if you're a writer or something, or a producer, you could be like, I'll take this one. I'll direct this one. But he did then Still Life from 2001, never heard of. The Ghosts of Hamilton Street, 2003. These are movies, by the way. Never heard of that one either. But in 2006, he came out with Oculus, Chapter 3, The Man with the Plan, which is what this movie is based on. This is 30 minutes. So he made a short film. Now he made a short film after making 3 movies somehow. And then he made another movie in 2011, Absentia.
Which is actually pretty good.
You've seen this one.
Yeah.
So that's the first one you've seen. And then Oculus.
Which is really good.
And then you've seen Hush.
Yes.
That's him too.
Which I didn't care for much. But
Before I Wake.
Also seen it.
Is that
also pretty good.
And then Ouija, Origin of Evil, which was
sequel. Really good.
And everyone... I haven't seen any of these except for Oculus.
Yeah, so this guy has some chops as far as making good, but I guess second-tier horror movies. They're not front runners. All of the movies that you... Starting with Oculus on.
Yeah, that says...
I really I would recommend almost all of them.
Yeah.
Hush was really well done. It's kind of exploitative.
Oh, is it?
of of a disability. Like the main female lead is deaf.
Oh, so it's kind of like a deaf version of Wait Until Dark or something?
Yeah. No. Actually, not really.
Actually, not at all.
It's kind of like a deaf version of some slasher flick.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
a slasher.
Yeah.
And it's very well done.
Yeah.
Like, conceptually very well done. I don't like it when people use people's disabilities against them.
Yeah.
So.
But
it was really well done.
Basically, he's a horror guy.
He is a horror guy.
And his last 4 TV shows have all been critically acclaimed. So this is kind of humble beginnings, but made some movies no one's ever heard about.
And then he made Oculus.
Oculus 2013. It's about Karen Gillian, who buys a mirror, and her brother gets out of the insane asylum, and then she makes her brother come to their old house. And the movie is the mirror messing with them and flashbacks to them as children. And like the rest of the movie, like literally is them explaining the mirror. We're seeing what happened in the past and them trying to, I guess, prove the mirror is evil. And that's the movie. They have cameras set up. They have cameras watching at all times. They got alarms. There's plants that will die. The dog supposedly will die. Like, they have everything set up to prove this mirror is evil and it killed my parents, type of thing in the past. That's it. I mean, that's not derogatory. That's the plot of the movie. Yeah, a lot of flashbacks, flash forwards, all happening together. In fact,
are they flashbacks?
Well, that's
because it's this. Okay,
no, you're right. That's part of it. It's
this.
They interact
like beautifully woven together, like seamless. What's the past? What's present? Kind of experience that I love.
It's kind of like, I mean, I don't know anything about the theory of relativity, but it's all time happening at one time.
Like thermonuclear fusion.
Yeah,
right.
It's all time happening at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah.
That's what I meant, Dr. Deeks.
Okay, I agree.
Well, do you want to lead us with positives? This is your baby, actually.
Well, I mean, it's not a perfect horror movie. This is the first one of the movies. I guess this is our third, my choice.
Yeah.
This is the first one that I don't think is a perfect movie. But
that doesn't mean it's not worth your time.
Yeah, I think this is well worth, even if you don't like horror, just all of the things that this movie does that I've never seen before.
Yeah.
I think is really awesome. So positives. I felt like all 4 of the lead performances were very solid performances. The dad, the mom, and then the 2 kids.
Yeah.
The 2 kids in both versions of themselves. So we have 2 child actors that I felt like, I mean, it's hard to find good child actors.
Right.
I feel like the girl child actor did better than the boy child actor.
I recognize her. She's in the Snowpiercer TV show.
Oh, okay.
I watched a couple seasons of that.
Yeah, so I feel like solid performances all around. Like I mentioned already, there's just this seamless interweaving of the past and the present. Mm-hmm. And there's no point really in the movie where you know, okay, this is actually what's going on right now. Yeah. Because the mirror is constantly like forcing them to see things, experience things that we as the viewer don't ever really know this is where we're at.
Yeah.
There are a few moments where we assume that, this is present. Right. Like when she's explaining, this is what we're doing. Yeah. This is what the mirror has done. This is that. And then at the very end, we obviously know very clearly that is present. But throughout most of the movie, it's just you're constantly forced to ask, is this reality for the characters? I loved that. So those are kind of my 2 main ones. We'll get to some of the other stuff that I love when we get to the ethics and the philosophy.
So I looked up Oculus. It's Latin for eye. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
You probably knew that.
I did.
So I was like, yeah, they're seeing things. Is that the Oculus makes them see things? But it felt more like they were their mind or memory was being played with. So I was like, what if it was like instead of Oculus, it was like some sort of god or goddess of memory or something. I even looked it up, like what's the name of the god of memory. But Oculus works. They're seeing things. Can you trust what is real?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's good. I think it's super... Here's what I've always thought about scary movies. Sometimes... But just hearing a scary story is almost scarier than seeing a scary story sometimes.
Yeah,
I don't know if anyone else
sometimes.
thinks this, because I thought... And this is actually in the short film, almost word for word. Some of it's word for word. The sister's like... Here's this what happened in 19 whatever.
Yeah.
Here are these scary stories. That's really good for setting the mood, like setting the tone even. But it's like, oh, that's really scary, and you start thinking about it, and that gets you there in the place to be scared type of thing. So I think that was really effective.
So you're talking about the part where she's explaining to the camera.
Yeah.
These are all the deaths that the mirror has caused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always think, a scary story can do more, sometimes probably, than the actual thing. Because I guess that's how our mind works, I suppose. Like, scary...
we build it rather than them building it for us.
In fact, not to show my hand too early, I have like a pitch for a sequel here.
Oh my.
And I want to know what you would say for a sequel. That's not yet, though. But... it's just, we like creepy things and unexplained things. There's a lot of podcasts and stuff about unexplained mysteries and unsolved murders. And she's like, this is what happened. How did she die? Like, she died because lack of water in the bathtub. Yeah. This guy broke all his limbs with a hammer. Like, that's creepy stuff. And it's good at setting the mood for later. And I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't like to watch scary movies all the time. But when I do, I'm like, please scare me more. Yeah. So part of me is like, maybe could have been a bit creepier for me. And I'm like,
so this didn't scare you enough? Not
a whole lot. I mean, later the night, my kid woke up and I'd go downstairs by myself and be like, oh man, I watched a scary movie tonight. And I go check in on my child by myself through my own house. I guess I have some issues with how some things were shot or shown to us, scary movie-wise.
So other positives?
Yeah, kids did good. I thought it was questionable at first. Some of the acting. Like, the first flashback when they're moving in, the mom, who is an actress I don't hate, by the way, who's Starbucks from Battlestar Galactica, and Bo-Katan from Mandalorian. Okay. Two things you haven't seen.
Correct.
She's a science fiction feminine hero now, just like actually Karen Gillian, Doctor Who and Guardians of the Galaxy, a movie we'll watch next week. She's coming back, but she's like, why aren't you helping me with moving in? And the kids running around playing laser tag is like, I don't know if this feels like people moving in the day of.
That's fair.
Fun fact, we used to have those exact laser tag toys growing up.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. In fact, I have one of them in my house right now. One of my kids took it from my parents' house. Like, one of those exact laser guns.
Very nice. But her performance, I feel like, admittedly, I guess she's a little shaky at the start. But as she transitions into an insane person, I just got shivers just thinking of her doing some of the stuff that she did, thinking that she was doing other things.
See, that I like how it messes with you. You're right. It's fun how I guess, but also one of the things I was thinking about is if nothing can be believed, then what's the point of being scared of it? So there's a part where she thinks she killed her husband. Mm-hmm. That she gets a phone call from her husband. It's like, which one's real? And I was like, I don't know, maybe none of them.
Like when she kills her boyfriend or
are they just
fiance.
They're not married, I guess.
No. Yeah.
So I guess I don't know if that's a gripe. But I didn't hate this movie though.
That's fair.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like if nothing is real, or if anything can be real, then nothing is real type of thing. Oh. That's something I was thinking of.
Thank you, Mr. Incredible. Appreciate it. But yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Dietz. Where's the point that scores?
That's like 18 in the last week.
I'm just joking.
Once we get to the philosophy of the real, that is actually something I wanted to dig into in terms of reality. I thought of another thing that I really like about this movie. So for me, horror movie, and we were talking about this earlier, horror movies fall into kind of three categories. There are three different ways of scaring you. One is jump scares. Like, for example, Smile is laden with jump scares.
Is that all it is?
But not a whole lot else.
Yeah. See, that's cheap. That's
right. And I think if that's all your movie is, and that's all you've got, don't make a horror movie.
Yeah.
On the other extreme, we have, I don't know, like Day of the Dead or Dawn of the Dead, where it's just gore. And that's all that's scary is this guy's head explodes, blood splatter all over. Here's a arm, here's a this, here's a that.
Yeah.
If that's all you got, make something else. But between those two extremes are like the sweet spot horror movies, where it's not just jump scares, they're there, and it's not just gore, it's there. But there's this other just building sense of dread and horror that is at its core what makes the movie scary. And so I think Oculus does a really good job writing that. Are there jump scares? Yes. There are, I don't know, 4 or 5 of them. Is there gore? Yeah.
There is, when someone gets shot near the end, I was like, oh, that looks like someone just got shot. So that's...
Yeah.
Like, to its credit, I think that helps the movie.
Well, right, but it becomes effective when it's like all of a sudden here's this.
Yeah, when it's too
not
gross.
like here's blood, there's blood. Okay, an eyeball. Who cares? Because we've been saturated at this point.
Yeah.
And so this movie, I feel like, makes very good use of the gore.
Yeah.
So the specific example is the dad's fingernails, where the mirror convinces him that his fingernails are Band-Aids that he needs to take off.
Right.
And so as he takes them off, the mirror convinces him he doesn't feel any pain. And so at various points, we see the progression of his insanity as he works his way through his fingernails.
Yeah.
So that, I think, is a really effective use of gore because it has a purpose, one. It's minimal, too, and then it helps us keep track of where we are in terms of him going insane.
His progression.
So, not to beat the already dead horse, but Oculus, I feel like, hits that sweet spot. Was it as scary as it could have been? Probably not. I watched it again for like the 5th time,
oh no way,
I had like the same kind of response. I'm like, this is more psychologically scary.
Yeah.
This is a thinking person's scary.
Yeah.
So if you don't think about what's going on, it's, if you're just there for, okay, feed me horror, this is probably not your movie.
Yeah, but that's not to say jump scares can't be good. Jump scares can be good.
Well placed.
Yeah, well placed. So there's some, here's what I think. Some that come out of nowhere, take you off guard.
Right.
Those could be really effective. Like, for example, in Jaws, when they're just scuba diving, and oh look, a shark tooth, dead body face, scary noise. It's out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That'll scare you.
Yeah.
Or there's that great one in Insidious when they're just talking in broad daylight, jump scare out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But if it's your only trick, it's not good. But if it's set up, if it's like, oh, it's coming, I know it's coming, but it can still somehow get you. Maybe it's not where it was coming from, or something like that. Those can still be good. I think it's smart to keep audiences on their toes.
Yeah, for sure.
And there are jump scares in this. I just can't even remember what they even were. Just because the monsters look really cool. The mere eyeballs, they're effective. So when they pop out, that's kind of creepy.
Yeah. For me, the first time I watched it, the one that got me the most was the first time we see the mom after the dad has chained her to the wall, and the kids are coming in, they're looking for mom, and then like mom's there and
Yeah.
she's coming. Yeah, that one got me. But yeah. So,
Ooh, actually, I have a thing. I wrote a note down.
oh, good.
Do you know what the rule of three is? What's the rule of three, Dr. Deeds?
In terms of like positioning stuff on us? No, I don't.
There's two main ways to think of the rule of three. The rule of three is a classic comedy setup. It's like you've established it, you've solidified it. The third time, it's different and funny. I guess in Singing in the Rain, the gotta laugh, that whole thing. He jumps against the wall. He jumps against the wall. Then he jumps against the wall. He breaks through the wall. That's like a baby version of this example. But the rule of three also applies to scary movies.
Okay.
And like, here's the thing. Here's the thing. We know it's the thing, but the next time it's scary.
Okay.
The example that I wrote down here, I was like, I'll bring it up in the pod, is when she opens the mirror, not at the house, and she sees the head turn around in the background.
Oh, yeah.
And like, oh, statue number one. Statue number two. Here it comes. This is it. This is where the jump scare comes. But then this movie, it's like, what are you doing? Or the guy walks in and interrupts it.
Right.
The statue's just gone, basically.
Yeah.
And so it's setting up something is not right here, and the mirror can do things. So that's like at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
But it's the same idea of just making sure you understand that you can't always trust. But that's how they get jump scares too. Like, you expect it the first time. Anyway, now I'm repeating myself.
Rule of three.
I'm repeating myself 3 times now.
Cool. I did not know that. I will
keep an eye out for
Yeah, I
it.
will watch for that next horror movie I watch. Cool.
Yeah, keep an eye out. Actually, here's another good example. In the It movie, the first one, they're in the scary house, and there's 3 doors, and they're labeled not scary, scary, very scary. So they open like the not scary one first, because obviously, and that's the scariest one, you know.
Oh, right.
And then, anyway, they have to go through the 3 doors. It's just a way to set up and pay off.
Cool.
Anyway.
I didn't know that.
Just not to dip into negatives.
Well, let's dip, because
I think like at the beginning it's just more rough, where it's like, how are you doing, little brother? It's like the exposition to get it out of the way. And they're like, we have to go. No, the house. I forgot, you haven't been here since it happened. You know, stuff like that. I was like, come on. I get something happened and we'll figure it out, but why are we talking like this?
I agree. Yeah, so I would say the first 15 or so minutes are what make this an imperfect horror movie.
Yeah.
And I agree 100%.
And not to rain on, because it's...
Rain away.
Here's the thing. I don't hate this movie, but at the same time, when he cuts his fingernail off, he looks at the mirror. The camera shows us the mirror like the mirror was laughing. And maybe no one else would ever have thought of that, but I just imagined the mirror going... like the mirror's a little stinker or something.
I'll have to watch
like the shot, reverse shots, like... Maybe this is how my brain works. They go out of the room, and they come back in. The cameras are moved for the first time, facing each other. And I was like, the mirror made them kiss. So once again, this is not like most people. This is just my dumb brain. But also, I always try to not be scared at movies, so that's kind of maybe how I
deal with it.
Yeah, kind of how I cope.
My son is exactly like that. He'll talk constantly and make fun of it constantly because he doesn't. Yeah,
that's how I am. I used to watch scary movies with my sister, but it was just me and my wife was asleep next to me, and I was like, I gotta do this by myself.
That means it was pretty good anyway.
Yeah, it's cool how it messes with things. In fact, I was poking around on the good old-fashioned Reddit because people are like, are there sequels or prequels or anything? And some guy was just like, I like how the mirror just is. Yeah. It's not a curse.
Yep.
It's not like a witch inside. It's just evil.
No backstory.
No backstory. Which is why I think The Exorcist is so effective. I know at the beginning of The Exorcist, we see some guy digging in Egypt. But then unrelated, seemingly unrelated, house in the middle of like a normal looking house.
Right.
And then, Ouija board. Is it the Ouija board? Well, maybe not. Like, it's just, she gets possessed. Why did it happen? It just is.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, I like that idea. The mirror just is. It's just evil.
Yep.
And why? Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, those are the questionable... Oh, wait, I have a big one.
Oh, good.
Here's the thing. I kept comparing it to other movies I had seen at this point.
Other horror movies?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, for example, the mom trying to kill the kids. I couldn't help but think of Evil Dead Rise, where literally the mom is trying to kill kids. And a little bit more intense, and I prefer it a little bit more.
Fair enough.
'Cause, like...
Is it bloodier?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot bloodier.
Okay, so...
But it's also unafraid to, like, kill kids in that movie. Like, people, you know, like, that you usually would expect to be safe are not safe in that movie. Which is all fun. Evil Dead, no one's safe type of thing.
Right.
But there's, like, when the mom is chasing them, it's just like we're so far away. The camera, to my memory, the camera's way up here. And yeah, I don't want to be chased by my mom with evil mirror eyes. That would be scary. But how it was shot, I thought could have been better. Like maybe more point of view or
down lower
or something. So there's a few shots like that. I was like, if I was making this, I would have maybe done something different. But I've never made a movie.
Yeah, that's
Mike Flanagan. He's made like 5 at this point. So
yeah,
who am I to say?
Yeah. So not a perfect horror movie, but it's one that I love for other reasons other than like the overt horror. So this is more of a, I mean, I can't say it's more of a psychological horror, but for me, it's, I don't even know if this is a thing, but for me, this is a philosophical horror movie.
Hey, if it's not a thing, you just invented it.
Yeah, I just invented it. This is a philosophical horror movie. It's not, like you said, doesn't have a lot of blood. Jump scares are pretty minimal. What makes this movie horrific is the philosophy behind it. So I guess we can transition into the philosophy of the real. Welcome to the philosophy of the real.
Welcome to the philosophy.
So, like, the philosophy has some major, big, huge questions. Among the most majorist of those, or whatever, what is the word?
Majorist is right. One of the majorist
One of the majorist, among whatever.
You only teach English.
The ist of the major. We're going with the ist of the major of the questions.
Yes.
Is what is real?
Yeah.
Or what is reality?
That's like literally our podcast comes from Morpheus from Matrix.
Different real.
Yeah, but it's
the same.
A movie about what is real.
Yeah, what is... Yes, actually, that's true. That is true. You're right. So, The Matrix has a different take on that question than this movie does.
Yeah.
And so what, to me, makes this movie work so well as a horror movie, especially for people that spend a lot of time thinking and whatever, philosophizing, whatever.
I've heard it both ways.
Okay. I've never heard of either of those ways. But, is this movie's answer to the question, what is real, is what you said earlier. When she stabs her fiancé and then gets a call from her fiancé, which is real, we don't know.
Yeah.
Like, we still don't know. Even at the end of the movie, we don't know. Is her fiancé dead? Is her fiancé still trying to call her every hour?
Yeah.
And so this movie is horrific to me because it leaves us no hope in terms of how do we answer the question, what is real? If you encounter this mirror, your love affair with reality is over. And we get that up from... we talked about, like, the first 15 minutes aren't that great, but we even get it there. Yeah. Because the kid has been in, a mental institution for 15 years. Yeah. And they have sold him a version of what is real.
That's a good point.
They've programmed him or whatever to think what is real is your dad went insane, killed your mother, and then you shot him to protect your sister.
Yeah.
And they've drilled that into him. And so at the start of the movie, he comes into this encounter with his sister
Right.
with that version of reality. His sister has a completely different version of reality. The
Yeah.
mirror drove our dad insane, our mom insane. The mirror showed us a bunch of stuff that wasn't real. We have to go and clear our parents' name and destroy the mirror.
Right.
And so from the very beginning, we know that this is a philosophical movie. This is a philosophical battle.
Yeah.
Is the boys' version or the girls' version
Real.
the real?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got those two versions. Then we get into the house,
Yeah.
and we're encountered with at least two other possible versions of reality,
Right.
in which the boy, like the kid version and the adult version of these two, exist simultaneously.
Yeah, that is kind of cool.
That's a possible real
Because
that we're presented.
Because it was also, like, the first time, even before they get into the house, she has a dream
Yeah.
where she goes into the mirror, or looks at the mirror, and her dad, like, grabs her, and then she wakes up. That's, like, the first thing that's, like, jumping back and forth.
And we also have like, even before that, the boy has a similar dream.
Oh, like the cold open.
Which he's going through the experience, and this is the time that he shoots in his dream. So, so we've got the clinical version of reality, the hospital. We've got the girl's version of reality distorted by time, and we've got the possible reality the mirror presents that time doesn't exist, that simultaneously we have the boy and the girl, because they keep seeing each other throughout the movie. And then we have a fourth reality in which they are both there as adults interacting with a real world mirror that they're trying to deal with. And so the movie, to me, becomes not a masterpiece, but a really well done philosophical horror movie.
Yeah.
It just plays with those four all the way through, and it interweaves all four of those realities to the point that we don't know, and the characters have no idea which is real. The clinic, the kid, the boy, the adult boy is desperately trying to hang on to his clinical reality.
Yeah.
But at some point, it just kind of is no longer possible for him to hold on to that. So the philosophy of the real for this movie is, what is reality? Yeah. This movie's answer is, you don't know, and you will never know.
Ooh.
And it leaves you there. Like, it leaves you with the boy having, quote unquote, killed his sister.
Yeah.
And he's screaming as he's dragged away into the police car, just the same exact way he was dragged away to the police car when he was a kid. It wasn't me, it was the mirror.
Right.
Is that true? I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know. They have visual evidence
that
he's the one that flipped the timer that killed his sister.
Yeah.
So we're left, okay, do we believe our senses? Do we believe the visual? Do we believe... And it leaves us just like that.
Yeah.
Which, to me, those kind of horror movies are the most unsettling. Like when,
what really happened type of thing?
Well, that, and like, we don't know the answer at the end.
Right. It drives people insane when movies don't tell.
Because it forces because your brain demands conclusions.
Yeah.
And so when a horror, especially a horror movie, ends that way, it doesn't allow you any closure.
Yeah.
It forces your mind to continue playing with and asking and trying to figure out the answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's philosophy, the real...
No, in my film class, I have students who hate it when there's ambiguous endings.
Yeah. And it's possible they hate it because they don't like thinking.
Yeah, I think that's part of it.
They don't like that they have to now continue to consider the movie after the movie's over.
Yeah.
Those are the movies I love, and I think we should be watching, which is one of the reasons I picked Oculus.
Right.
Because you have to continue thinking about Oculus after it's over.
So I was reminded, because this was, for me, it was more about memory. Their memories were being messed with and stuff. And there was a quote from all places, Only Murders in the Building, where Martin Short's character says, memory can contain both objective reality and subjective perception. So, like, maybe something happened. Objectively, it happened. We can't deny it. But then there's also a chance for us to, the subjective perception, misremember things.
Yeah.
And I thought this movie was kind of playing into that. Like, did this happen? It's like, well, I don't know. Like, that's how our memory works sometimes.
Yeah.
You don't, like, because they would fight. You are remembering this wrong. It's like, no, you were remembering this wrong. Like, this is how it happened.
The brother and sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, because our memories are like that sometimes.
Yeah. Which throws another wrench into the what is reality problem.
Yeah.
Because not only do we have like the actual events, but we also have, 80 different versions from 80 different people.
Because you can block stuff out for trauma.
Yep.
You can,
filter it through previous experience.
Exactly.
Yeah. I guess to, beat the already dead horrors. This may not be a horror movie like top 10 for people that don't enjoy dealing with like complex philosophical issues, but if you do, I think this would be in the top 10 best philosophical horror movies I've ever seen.
Oh, nice. That's high praise.
Well, it's a subcategory that I just invented, so
well,
I don't know that I could tell you the 10. But...
Sounds right enough to be real. What's our next favorite philosophical horror, Dr. Deeks?
I don't know. I'll figure it out.
All right. I want to take some time for film studies of the real. This is actually your book. You lent me this book. Yeah. And I was flipping through just to see if I could pull something out of midair. But I stumbled upon, there's a chapter called Spectatorship and Subjectivity. And I was like, maybe that's something there. But it's all about lenses. We've talked about lenses before in this podcast, where you can watch one thing and then watch it with a specific thing in mind. So in this case, the psychoanalytic lens, which is usually Freudian and stuff. But this book uses French theorist Jacques Lacan. Lacan, I'm a Schwarzenegger. Anyway, but there's a part I think kind of plays an easy way to connect this lens to this movie. Mm-hmm. Lacan's analysis, the first stage of the imaginary, not only is the sense of illusion, but as a pre-linguist order dominated by images, this is the world of the mother. So it's, Freudian's all about moms and dads and stuff. So it's branching off, like the world of the mother, blah, 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 blah. But this is where it gets intense. Yeah, the first infants, like babies, process is imaginary first. Then it's the mirror phase, in which the infant recognizes its own reflected image, suggesting that it is a separate being. So now kids are now mirroring their parent. Mm-hmm. Then there's the symbolic stage, the world of the father, the world of language, of meaning, production, of law, in the sense of culture order. Because, not that the mirror is doing this, like, the only reason to do it, but it was definitely like, here's your mom. Your mom is going insane. What are you going to do about it? Here's your mom. She's all good. She wants you to be back. So it's messing with, using the psychoanalytic lens, like, how am I going to kill you? I'm going to use your mom. Yep. And your mirror reflection, you're seeing your mom who died, and you're trying to fix things, but that's what's going to kill you in the end.
Yep, that is super cool. Yeah, I hadn't thought of Lacan. I studied Lacan quite a bit as part of my post whatever.
Here, this is highlighted from you.
You can cut that.
No, I'm going to keep that in. The fact that you studied Lacan is cool, Dr. Dietz.
I think Lacan is really cool. Mirror stage is really interesting.
But like Lacan and psychoanalytic lens, it seems to go into like, how do we see ourselves on the screen type of stuff. Mm-hmm. Which is a whole other bag that I don't think this movie deals with necessarily. Right. But like, it's kind of interesting how no matter who you are, you could come from like a family of the strictest rule-following, church-going family, or like the anarchist family, no rules, do whatever you want. And you will watch a movie about outsiders, or a movie about like people who go against the grain, and we can all see ourselves. Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Man.
It is.
How like we see ourselves in movies no matter what sometimes.
Yep.
Man, movies are cool.
Movies are cool.
Thinking about movies is cool.
It is. Yeah. So this is directly from Ryan's brain.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if we're talking about the mirror phase, obviously Oculus is about a mirror.
Yeah.
But the mirror phase in Lacanian theory is we see, like, reflected a version of ourselves.
Yeah.
And so we develop our self-concept based on that reflection.
Mm-hmm.
So what this movie does that's horrific is it plays with that reflection.
Yeah.
And at some point in the movie, both the adult boy and the adult girl can no longer see themselves as they were before.
Right.
Because the mirror phase has presented them with this alternate version of themselves so long that they can't see themselves anymore. And so that's another way that the mirror messes with their reality. So yeah, that's a really good take, Ryan.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. So I guess I'm in charge of the dessert of the reel.
No, I have one.
This is my movie.
No, I got one. It's whoever has a good one.
Well, it better be the one that I'm thinking of.
Well,
we're doing two desserts.
No, there's only one right answer, I think. What's your dessert? What is yours?
No, go.
All right. It's when she's eating the apple.
Okay, you got it right. And I approve.
Here's the thing. I saw it coming a mile away, this twist. But here's the thing.
But then it retwists.
Here's the thing. I'm pretty sure that was a Red Delicious. And if that was a Red Delicious, I'd rather eat a light bulb.
You know what? You are 100% right.
Red Delicious are gross apples.
They are gross apples. I agree. That's our hot take for this movie. So, she's eating an apple, changing the light bulbs.
You could see it coming, but
she sets the light bulb next to her apple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Picks up the apple, quote unquote, bites it. It's a light bulb.
Yeah.
But then it isn't.
Like
it's
blood,
the apple.
Which is horror. I think eating glass is some people's subconscious horror.
Yeah.
Like, why would I ever do that? I would never do that. Like that type of thing. You don't want to get cuts in your mouth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And that's a lot of people's subconscious horror.
Yeah. So this is one of those judicious uses of blood in the movie. And then it wasn't. It was actually her apple.
Yeah.
And so for her and for her character, like that's the point at which I think she starts either realizing that she's not going to win this battle, or she tips over into, I'm no longer in control. But yeah.
Also, that might be a good example of the rule of three. We see the brother doing the light bulb thing. It's like, I'm going to change these every now and then. Then she has to change the light bulb. That's the second time. But when she reaches for the apple,
the light bulb is no longer lighting.
Yeah. Okay, so here's I thought about this, and I think I have an idea for a sequel. And feel free to pitch any sequels. Okay, but look at this. But this came out in 2013. This is now 11 years later. Mm-hmm. I think a good potential sequel could be if the internet found these tapes. Because she recorded stuff. We don't see what happens to the tapes.
It's like an unfriended kind of thing, or
no? This is what I would do. I wouldn't have these characters involved again, but I would have someone on the internet sharing these videos. And people are like, yeah, but that's all fake stuff. I was like, that's not real, obviously. But then there'd be groups of people like, no, this is real. Look at all conspiracy stuff. Mm-hmm. And getting into this idea of the mirror did this. She's right. We got to uncover this mirror. And it would be about someone trying to do it themselves, but in a different scenario. And I think a fun twist, because you can't just do the same thing twice, is to add live streaming into it. Where you have a camera with audiences watching right now. Because how would you have a mirror messing with people when people are watching that happen in real time? That adds I don't know how it would happen necessarily, but I think that would make it more interesting and warrant a sequel. People like those unsolved mysteries we talked about earlier, and people like conspiracy theories. When I was a kid, not even teenagers, and I'm just so skeptical now, sadly. I don't believe in stuff anymore. But like when I had a buddy, we were big into like cryptids and ghosts. We would watch footage of like unexplained things all the time. This was like our jam growing up. So that, to me, that would be a fun sequel. Like, this gets uncovered. How can we explain this? You don't think it's real? That's ridiculous. It must be real. Let's prove it ourselves. I don't know.
That would be fun.
Maybe.
If it wasn't a sequel.
Oh my.
No, that would be really interesting if the mirror was able to mess with people over the live stream. That would actually be really cool. You should make that movie.
Yeah. Oculus 2. Like, if you're like, what's
we would not call it Oculus 2.
Oculus?
We would call it something that is not a sequel. We would make our own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Anyway, not a bad movie.
Yeah. So ethics?
Like, let's get into the ethics. The jungle that is ethics.
Yeah, the jungle of ethics. So I chose Loyalist ethics for this movie. So Loyalist ethics means you will do whatever your group wants / needs.
Yeah.
And this movie drops a major hammer on Loyalist ethics.
You mean a major anchor?
Anchor. Wait, what?
That's what the thing was.
Oh,
that
yes,
was
a major boat anchor. Sorry, I missed that. A major anchor on Loyalist ethics.
Yeah.
Because if any one of the 4 main characters had ever said, you know what, screw the group, I'm not doing this, I'm leaving, goodbye.
Yeah.
They would have lived. They would have survived. They would have been sane.
Yeah. Well, they just had to leave the house.
Right. But they don't, because the group needs them.
Yeah.
They are loyal to their family.
Yeah,
and
but
I'm not trying to
part
say...
of the thing that makes it effective as kids, you can't leave your family.
Right.
You have nowhere to go.
Right.
They just moved there.
Right.
They called someone. And this was a creepy part when the voice recording was like the same thing. Like, oh, it's the same
Every
voice.
doctor they called was the same voice.
See, that's kind of creepy.
Yeah, it's all creepy. Everything. But yeah, if the wife had left the husband when she thought he was cheating, it would have diffused it. If the husband had left when he started, doing things that he knew was weird and whatever, changed it. Any of the kids are like, you know what, we got to go to our friend's house for a while mom and dad sorted out. Everything would have changed it. Yeah. So Loyalist ethics drives this movie.
Right.
And it demonstrates to us that Loyalist ethics I would suggest, is a very weak ethical school. Because Loyalist ethics leads to the Holocaust, leads to the Manson family, leads to... and we can get good examples too. There's a lot of good examples.
Name one.
Like any family that's not insane is built around Loyalist ethics.
I train my children to be loyal to me.
Do you?
Yes.
You're brainwashing. No, I'm just kidding. But anything like patriotism is largely built on Loyalist ethics, which can be good, can be bad. And so here again, I think we have a secondary, or maybe even this is our first tertiary school of ethics. Loyalist ethics, when you don't consider anything other than what does my group need / want, this is going to lead to problems. In this case, it leads to death and insanity and, not good things.
Right.
Eating light bulbs.
But
but not eating light bulbs.
The sister is responsible. I couldn't believe... he just got out of the insane asylum. Yeah. And it's like, let's break the mirror that broke our family day one.
And why does he go? Loyalist ethics.
Because he trusts his big sister.
Yeah, because he's loyal to her.
Yeah.
And so, this movie over and over and over and over pounds into us. Well, Loyalist ethics is dangerous. If there's nothing else other than Loyalist ethics, it's dangerous.
Yeah. But what type of ethics is the desire to right your parents' murders? Like, what was she trying to follow?
That's Loyalist.
Loyalist?
right? Because she wants to defend or clear her parents' honor.
Yeah.
Why? Because that's her group. That's her people. Currently, her people are being smooshed down by internet rumors or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, everything in this movie is, I think, driven by loyalist ethics.
Yeah.
Every choice.
She seemed to have a nice life, though.
Before she decided to.
Exactly. I was like, they have a nice place. They can buy expensive stuff.
Yeah. Her life outside of the mirror is great.
Yeah.
And yet, because of loyalist ethics, she decides to chuck all of that. This guy she really likes, this beautiful place, great job. She chucks it so that she can be loyal to this familial group. And again, I'm not saying being loyal to your family is a bad thing at all. In fact, if we weren't loyal to our families, I think society would disintegrate. Yeah. However, we have to be critical in where we place our loyalty and the limits that we put on our loyalty.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is the ethics of the real.
I like
for
that.
Oculus.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think the mirror makes a cameo appearance in one of those shows, The Haunting of one of them. You know what it reminded me of?
What?
Well, at the very beginning, the scene I mentioned earlier that I didn't like, when they're moving in.
Yeah.
The mom's like, be careful, be careful. But I helped move an antique armoire once.
Oh, wow.
And you know what? I've never heard the word antique armoire so much in my life. The owner was very, very concerned about any scratches and anything.
On the antique armoire?
The antique armoire. And it's like...
I mean, if you had an antique armoire, wouldn't you want to protect your antique armoire?
I would love to have antique armoires. In fact, I'm going to start a collection of antique armoires.
Well, don't scratch the antique armoire.
Because it scarred me for life, but also inspired me.
I've now become insane. I'm going to...
That's what my movie will be. This armoire.
Where's the antique armoire?
It's not going to be called Oculus, it's going to be called armoire. It's like, I think the armoire is evil. Oh no, we have to fight the armoire. It's just a funny word to say. And how do we say it as many times as possible in a movie?
Armoire.
I think it's the armoire. There's a B movie where like a lazy boy rocking chair.
Yes, I want to see that.
And it's silly. There's
a couch or something. Amazing.
The armoire. That's my white whale. Anyway, I'm
from the depths of hell I stab at thee. I will scratch the armor. Cool.
Good movie. Good recommendation. I had to watch it on Tubi, not Tubi. I had to watch it on Pluto TV.
Cool.
So there are ads every now and then.
Oh, sorry.
Did you own it?
Oh, no wonder.
What?
Like, you can't have ads in a horror movie.
Yeah, that does.
You cannot do that.
You're not wrong.
All streaming services, knock it off with the ads in horror movies.
Man.
No wonder you didn't think it was scary. Okay.
That's a good point. Like, every 15, 20 minutes was
it's
like I have to watch
buy McDonald's!
Yeah, let me get on my phone for a little bit.
Oh. We're going to have to redo this whole episode now.
No, but here's the thing. That's the only way for me to watch it.
Why?
Because it was free.
No, I have it. You could have.
Yeah, I could have borrowed it from you, I suppose.
My.
But this is the reality we live. We are in the Wild West in terms of like where the industry is right now, because we started streaming. Streaming is it, but now streaming is ruining the industry. We cannot, they can't fund projects. We are getting big directors unable to get funding for their movies. Like Martin Scorsese had to go to Netflix for The Irishman, and then had to go to Apple for his next movie. This is freaking Martin Scorsese, you know? Anyway, the industry is falling apart before our eyes, and we're just paying for a bunch of streaming services to try to watch it happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's like a different podcast episode.
But it's also part of the Antique Armoire episode.
The Antique Armoire. We all have an Antique Armoire in our lives. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And some of our Antique Armoires are mirrors.
Yeah. Soma is the media industry at large.
Yeah. And some people's antique armoires are antique armoires.
Yeah.
You can't ignore the actual antique armoire. But this movie requires us to ask, is it actually an antique armoire?
Yeah.
Or is it just messing with our reality and it's actually an antique chair?
Right. It could be.
We wouldn't know.
An antique anything.
But we would think it was an antique armoire.
Yeah, we all have one.
Yeah.
Next week, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Which is the only other Marvel movie that I've already seen.
You've seen this one.
Yes. And I loved it.
Yeah.
It was marvelous.
See, I'm excited for you not only just to see Guardians 2 and 3. Volume. Sorry, they're not sequels, they're volumes.
Oh my.
But also how these characters eventually meet up with Avengers characters.
Cool.
You know, it's all that's the magic of the first 10 years.
Setting up all of it.
Yeah.
So they could tear it down in the next 20.
You like it already, so
I do.
Just have to find some sort of deep meaning. Deep philosophical
Not a
meaning.
problem.
Is this a philosophical horror movie? Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Don't forget to rate and review us. Email us at desertoftherealpod@gmail.com.
And remember, think critically.
Think critically
About the movies that you watch.
Yeah.
Because they're messing with you.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't put your brain in between the movie and your brain, it's going to write you.
Yeah.
You're going to end up believing things that you don't believe and don't want to believe. So think critically.
Think critically.
But also, feel free to enjoy your movie. As long as they're not Marvel. I'm just kidding.
And we love you.
We do love you. We'll see you next week.
Bye.